Hi everybody, I want to welcome you back to the channel, State of Charge. So thanks for joining us today. As you know, I focus on three things: solar power, web technology, and life stories. Well, today we're going to be focusing on a life story. Right now in my life, I have a lot of kids that I associate with who are seniors. And they're seniors in high school, and they have gone through a tremendous amount of life learning and life experiences this past 2 months, just like we all have. And so I want to just honor some of these students today and just kind of get their perspective on what it's been like in the life of a senior getting ready to graduate and moving on into their own adulthood, having gone through this pandemic. And so my guest today is Danielle. And hi, Dan. I'm going to call you Dani because that's how I know you. And so for the sake of the conversation, you are Dani. So Dani, you are a senior this year.
Yes, I am.
And obviously, we are all aware that there has been some major life circumstances that have taken place.
Yes.
And you have been thrown right into the middle of this. Fair or not fair, it is what it is, and it happens. So we're going to talk a little bit about those things today, all right? But before we do that, tell me a little bit about what was life like for you as a senior in your first semester, and some of the things that you did, some of the classes you were involved in, some of the sports that you were in, and what was everyday like for you before all of this craziness happened?
Sure. So my life is always pretty busy. The beginning of the year starts with swim. So that consumes 6 days of the week.
Yeah.
At least 2-hour practices. But it's truly my passion. So, it's something I enjoy doing. It's a stress release. It's just a break from all the homework.
Yeah.
But, that was hard just because it was my senior season, my last year.
Just because it's coming to an end.
Yes.
Or not only probably physically hard, but there was some emotional
absolutely
difficulty with it, right?
Yeah, especially since I've grown up swimming, so that was it's weird knowing that part of my life is now over.
Yeah.
Since I'm not pursuing it in college, but
sure. And you had mentioned a lot of homework. What was that like for you? Because we just had an interview with Gabe, and his homework didn't even come up in the conversation. And so, what was homework like for you as a senior this year?
So the way that I describe it to other people is my school is really rigorous in the sense that our class is almost one ahead of everyone else. So people usually struggle with their junior year. For me, my sophomore year was the hardest.
Okay.
And then senior year is usually a breeze. So it's kind of like I was a freshman in college with my workload.
So was it a breeze or was it?
It was not a breeze.
It was not a breeze? Okay.
Not a breeze. Manageable, but it was definitely challenging.
You said you had about 2 hours of swim.
Mm-hmm.
How many hours a day do you have of homework beyond swim and beyond actual school?
Probably an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Okay.
And then maybe a little more depending on studying, but it's definitely an added challenge.
And how did you do in swim?
I did pretty well.
Yeah? Did you make it to state?
I did.
Nice. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. You come into Christmas break, and we celebrate those kinds of things and do those things as a family, and you're anticipating the last half of your senior year. And I know that those are important moments in life because I remember my last half of my senior year, and that was a long, long time ago. And so you're coming into that. What are some of your anticipations? What are some of your expectations? What are some of the things that you're looking forward to as you're coming in to this last half of your senior year off of Christmas break?
Sure. So my school is really small. So when I say small, we truly have 75 kids in my senior class.
Nice.
So there's a lot of special things that we do. We do Armageddon. And how I describe it to people is it's like our homerooms compete in this giant field day. So there's basketball and tug of war and egg toss, and it's this huge thing that's just special to our school. So that's really fun, and everyone looks forward to that. But also, there was prom and senior retreat where this is the same thing, something special to our school.
Okay.
We all go up north and do team building activities, and then of course graduation.
So having a smaller school, I imagine you're able to do some of those kinds of things like that, where you really are building a small community and a tight bond, and you're able to go and do some of those things. And so you were looking forward to some of those kinds of things. Yeah. So what else? Anything else that you were thinking of, like, oh man, this is going to be so much fun?
So a lot of things that we do like a senior dinner where everyone's families are invited, and they do big slideshows of, us throughout the years when we were little, us through high school and even junior high. And then the day before graduation, or I guess the day of graduation, we do a senior brunch where we all get together, eat breakfast, and then go and graduate that night.
Nice.
So,
and those are certainly things to look forward to.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings us into the next topic. So the first couple weeks, month or so of school, you get through. Spring break is on the horizon. That's mid-March. That's obviously when things really start hitting the fan. And you go into spring break, and you start hearing all of this COVID-19 stuff. What was some of your initial thoughts with it? Not knowing what the next 6 weeks were going to look like, just some of your initial thoughts, what you're hearing on the news. Your mom and your dad are both in healthcare and first responders. So what are some of the things that you're hearing, and what are you thinking?
Well, even before spring break had happened, we were kind of learning about like the immune system and everything in biology.
Okay.
And
nice timing.
Right. And ironically enough, we spent a whole day talking about it, and there was only one case in Arizona. So I don't even think it was a thought on my mind that it would come to this. Everyone was hesitant and trying to be, respectful of everyone that, was coming down with the cases and be sympathetic, but I truly don't think that I ever thought it would come to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, like hearing from my parents, it was, like, let's just wait it out. Things like this happen. They're usually not a global pandemic, like it turned out to be.
Yeah, sure.
But,
obviously that turned into something different. So you come into spring break, and then now spring break is coming to an end, and school has been, at that point, postponed a couple weeks. And the reality of some of these things are really starting to come into play. What was your thought process, and how did that evolve as things start getting delayed, or things start getting talked of being canceled, or now we're going to virtual school? And tell me a little bit about what that was like for you.
Well, I will admit, when they first postponed school, I was slightly excited.
Longer spring break.
Right, because we only get 1 week, so I got 1 week turned into 3 weeks, which, was a little long, but I wasn't complaining.
Right.
And then it started coming out that school was closed through the end of the year, and that everything was canceled, and that we were going online, which was a huge shift compared to the old normal. But.
Sure. Now, there are things that are starting to then take place. The governor announces closures and stuff like that. School is now online, and things are now starting to be taken away. And the things that you anticipated, those things that you were talking about, the camp and the dinner and what was the Armageddon?
Yeah.
So now those things are no longer something that you have to look forward to because they've been taken away from you. Things like prom. What was that emotionally like for you as a senior, so excited about these things?
It was definitely like hard emotionally. There were times where the anticipation of waiting for it to get taken away was almost worse.
So now we're starting to get into a place where things are not only just being postponed, but they are now being canceled. And obviously, as things are canceled, things begin to be stripped from you and robbed from you and taken away from you. These things that you've anticipated this whole last half of your senior year. So as those things are being taken from you, emotionally, what was that like for you? And what was, just share with us some of those emotions that you went through.
Sure, yeah. There was many tears, to say the least. I would say the anticipation of things being taken away was equally as hard as them being taken away.
Okay.
It was kind of a waiting game, like what are we going to get to do, what aren't we?
Sure.
That first day that we went online was, I think, probably the hardest day of this all, because not only was it announced that schools were going online through the end of the year, all of our teachers came on and said everything that we had planned was inevitably canceled. also to find out that the month-long quarantine starts that next day. So it just kind of like everything kind of came crashing down.
All at once.
All at once.
Yeah.
So that was extremely hard. You know, you try and sympathize with people, but it's hard because the only way that you can really connect is through a screen.
Yeah.
But
you know, you had mentioned that you have a smaller class, and so you really are a tight-knit group, and now you're not able to see these kids and friends other than maybe online every once in a while or through a Zoom call or something. Did you ever think that going into spring break, that was going to be the last time you were going to be in school as a senior?
No, absolutely not.
Never would have crossed anybody's
Never would have
mind.
crossed my mind.
Yeah, right? So, prom's taken away.
Yeah.
Your graduation has gone virtual.
Yes.
And you are the class president.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that you're responsible for in graduation is giving a speech, correct?
Correct.
So we now have a virtual graduation. You still have to give a speech for this virtual graduation. What was that like? What did you have to do?
So a day before, we went and actually walked across the stage, and they gave us like very specific instructions. You know, you cannot cross this red line when you go and get your diploma. And then you walk in there, and our principal's like a hologram projected onto this podium where he's like handing us our diplomas.
Oh my word.
So when we went to go give our speeches, we go into this like, we all described it as like a Wizard of Oz room. It's truly like a green screen and a podium and a whole bunch of lights and cameras and screens, and you give your speech and then you're the hologram. So
wow.
It was really unique. I mean, you got to see the other kids that were doing speeches, like the valedictorians, salutatorians, but I mean, you were in that room alone. So
was that pretty surreal, or was it just like I'm having fun with this, or was it like this is just bizarre? Like what was it like for you?
It was both. Bizarre in the sense that, you know, I'm addressing my class for the last time and no one's there.
To a camera and lights.
Right, exactly. But, you know, it was fun in the sense that we didn't know what we were getting into. So we walk into this big room and, you know, there's a green screen, and it's unique to the class of 2020. So.
Yes, it is. The class that got quarantined.
Yes.
Absolutely. So now I don't want to end on these sour notes, because obviously we could look at the negative and focus on the negative and really, you know, grovel in that. So you obviously have some very exciting things ahead of you. Being thrust into adulthood really, really quickly because of this. You're learning some life lessons. You know, sometimes life is not fair. Sometimes things happen we have no control over. And we have to make the best of those opportunities. I like to call them opportunities. So what are some things that you've learned about yourself, and what are some things that you think that this situation is going to help you going into adulthood?
I'm a big people person, so I think that being able to communicate with people on a non face-to-face platform is like really valuable, you know. Whether it be like video conferences or emails or even text messages. It's really given me like insight on how to, I guess, just develop different communication skills.
Sure.
Like, you know, we always say that like Gen Z is like the tech generation, but it was nice to be able to use those for like a different platform other than just like a time waster.
Sure, those will definitely help you out in life ahead. Actually, absolutely. So what are your plans this summer and on into the next year or 2 years as you're getting ready to go into school and college?
So this year I'm taking summer school classes through the community colleges, and then I'll do the same thing this next year. I eventually hope to go to U of A.
Nice.
And pursue nursing.
Nursing.
Yes.
Okay. You're gonna be on the front lines if something like this happens
Yes.
again, right?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
That is awesome. So I'm gonna ask you the same question that I asked Gabe, and actually it's more of a statement. If you were with somebody that was going through a hard time, because you've learned and you can now empathize with going through a hard time, what would you tell them? And look at the camera as if you're talking to them and just say, hey, this I know is happening, but this. So what would your advice be to somebody who's going through a rough time?
I would say confide in people you trust. For me, like talking through things is always super important. But also take it one step at a time, because I think that's truly what's gotten me through this is, you know, take it one day at a time, know that it's gonna get better, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
There will be a time when it is better.
Yeah.
It may not be for a while, but there will be a time, right? So Dani, the name of my channel is called State of Charge. And you know that I like doing it on solar and things like that, and that has a connotation towards a battery. What is a battery state of charge? Is it empty? Has it been completely depleted? Is it fully charged? Or is it in between and it's getting charged? It's called the state of charge. And so I like to put that in a human perspective. And so Dani, what is your state of charge right now?
Definitely not empty, but definitely not full. Okay. I'm getting there, trying to finish the year. Still have some tests to go.
Still charging.
Still
Still plugged in.
Yes, but definitely better than what it used to be. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this with me
thank
today.
you.
And good luck with everything that's ahead of you. You're going to do amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.